Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of School Directors of the School District of Springfield Township. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A reading of the mission statement. Ms. Jordan, would you be able to read the mission statement for us today? She's like, I'm just catching everybody off guard.
The mission of the School District of Springfield Township is to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens who are high-achieving, resilient, and responsible in a changing global community.
Roll call.
Mr. Bedard.
Here.
Mr. Chapman.
Here.
Ms. Jordan.
Here.
Mr. Lapidus. Ms. Nelson. Mr. Rayer.
Here.
Ms. Sarsfield. Here. Ms. Lipinski. Dr. Taratusky.
Here. Announcements. The board at its discretion may videotape all or any portion of the public board meetings subject to the limitations set forth in Policy 006.2, broadcasting of meetings. Board meetings will be broadcast on Friday afternoon following the board meeting. Are there any public comments on agenda items?
Yes. I will be recording this interaction pursuant to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act.
Can you?
My name is Giuseppe Craney Monticelli,
Okay.
and I'm going to get out my notes here. Sorry about that. Is there a time limit by any chance? Is that 3 minutes or?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks.
So good evening, honorable, some not honorable public servants here. I'm here to talk about the agenda before you tonight, and that's going to be interim meetings F. Yeah, F. I would highly object to that being passed tonight. I think there's some spelling errors, particularly with this so-called Joseph Craney Monticelli. I believe that person is on the video record saying Giuseppe, Giusepppe, not Joseph. So I think an amendment to that record should be done before that's passed, or if it is passed, that can be amended later on for the record. And quite simply, too, what needs to be amended onto that record is this Act 3. February 14th, 2008, PL 6 number 3, probable cause affidavit. This came from the 911 Operations Center in Pottstown. This is for event number P186086669. It's Monday, November 5th, 2018. It's a type of a suspicious subject at the Springfield Township High School. Suspicious person. You got police that got dispatched out here at 19/12/26. Okay? I think Corporal Wilbur arrived on scene. Very, very polite officer, and I think he gave you guys an education about that. And I think that needs to be entered on the record that a public servant from this school district falsified a 911 call. That is, in fact, a crime here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And that would conclude, quite frankly, right now, my public comment on agenda items. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments on agenda items? Approval of the minutes. November 5th, 2018, interim meeting, board minutes F. November 20th, 2018, regular meeting, board minutes G. December 4th, 2018, reorganization, board minutes H, and December 4th, 2018, regular meeting, board minutes I. Is there a motion? Motion. And a second? Second. Any comments or questions from the board? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Approval of the treasurer's report D. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Reports and information. Number 1, Student Council Report, Annie Giampetro and Emily Walsh.
Hi, I'm Annie. Emily couldn't make it tonight. She has tests tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm a junior here, and I'm going to be talking to you about what Student Council has done. And so our events that have just recently passed was we've had our annual badminton tournament and our first flick and float. Our badminton and our flick and float were a huge success. The winners of our badminton tournament were 2 of our gym teachers, Mr. Hawley and Mrs. O'Neill. And then the community enjoyed a fun night at the pool where we watched The Incredibles 2. We raised over $250 for the MIP Foundation. The MIP Foundation's mission is to encourage mental health and support and social services for teenage oncology patients while increasing awareness about the effects of pediatric cancer. If you want to learn more about the MIP Foundation, you can go to www.themipfoundation.org. And then several of students and student council members spent a Saturday morning volunteering at a family-friendly event hosted by the MIP Foundation in December. We have embraced our partnership with the MIP Foundation and are grateful for the opportunity to raise money for teens as well as give back to our community. So some of our upcoming events this year will be on January 31st, we'll have our second Wing Bowl for the students. PJ Wheelhands and McGurks have been so kind to donate wings for us, and we're so grateful for that. In February, we'll be volunteering with the MIP Foundation and working at their family-friendly bingo night on February 8th. And in March, we will be having our March Madness, so we'll have a nice spirit week. And during that, it'll be for students and teachers to participate. And then in April, we're planning on having a Family Feud game night. We're still working out the ideas for that. And that's all that we have planned right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That sounds great.
Annie, I just have a quick question. Is the association with the MIP Foundation as the result of Colin Delaney?
Yes.
Okay, good, thank you.
Number 2, administrative reports. Dr. Hacker?
Okay, just prior to my preliminary budget presentation, I wanted to make 2 quick announcements. One is that you may have read about a new program being implemented at the state level that is required for all school districts in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, known as the Safe to Say program. The program technically made its debut yesterday on January 14th. However, we are not required as a district to begin implementation until the next several weeks. So we will be training our staff members as well as our students by the end of January. The purpose of the Safe to Say program is to allow students or parents or any interested resident actually to make an anonymous tip to a tip line where students either through an app or through the website can report any concerning matters that they wish to report. They are classified at the state level by dispatch into either life safety or non-life safety issues. Once they are classified, we get notification. So within the district, there is a Safe to Say team, primarily comprised of the building principals, who normally would have responsibility anyway for handling issues pertaining to their own students. The program is devised primarily for middle school and high school students. And as I said, once a tip is reported into the system, we receive instant notification, and it becomes the responsibility of the members of the team, primarily the school building principals, to conduct an investigation and then to dispose of whatever the tip is by either getting back to the individual or referral to whatever the next step could be. So I just wanted to announce that we will be doing our training so that students become aware of how they can enter tips, and parents can become aware, as can community residents. We are working in close coordination with the Springfield Township Police. They are well aware of the program and understand that disposition of a tip may at times involve our coordinating that with the police. The most important thing that I would like to get across to the public at this point as we look forward to implementation is this is for the purpose of allowing individuals to feel comfortable making tips about incidents about which they are concerned without fear of reprisal or if they have concerns about their identity. The preferable method that we always like to ensure the public is aware of is that individuals within the schools or parents go to the building principal. That is the first and best way and most immediate way that we can get involved and begin to investigate anything that comes to our attention. So even though the state has implemented this program, our preference is that as soon as someone becomes aware of something, especially during school hours, that they take the opportunity to notify the building principal. The other thing that I want to stress is that it is a misdemeanor to report a tip that is not true. So that's very important for our students to be aware of. We have a concern that once the program is unveiled, there will be a lot of false tips that are submitted. And we want to make sure that our students and our parent community understand that the law takes the reporting of anonymous tips which turn out to be false very seriously. So we hope that students and parents will feel comfortable using it, but more importantly, we always hope that people will feel more comfortable going to their building principals as well. Okay. The second thing I wanted to announce, we've sent some e-blasts out at the building level about our next Equitable Practices Committee meeting, which will be meeting on February 7th at 6:30 in the middle school library. We've had a number of highly successful meetings since the start of the school year when we had our first meeting. We have continuing and ongoing work taking place in the subcommittees that we have through our equitable practices work. And this meeting on February 7th, we will be featuring the Director of Equity Services for the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, PSBA, Dr. Heather Bennett. This is a new position that was created at the state level for PSBA, and we're thrilled that Heather is agreeing to join us. She'll talk about the equity services work that's taking place at the state level, which coordinates very nicely with the work we're doing here in our own district. So I'm very happy to announce that.
What time is that meeting?
6:30.
And on to our preliminary budget presentation. I know you can hear me, but the microphone is really more for the video. So that's why I'm going through. So every year, as you are well aware, we always focus on a look at our preliminary budget presentation prior to the vote that you will be taking this evening so that we can submit the preliminary budget at the state level and also so that we can release it publicly. So as first and foremost background to the preliminary budget, we always include our mission statement. We read it at every board meeting. We highlight it in every budget presentation that I do, because if we believe in our mission statement that we are going to educate and develop all students as learners and citizens, then we have to provide the resources which will allow them to become high achieving, resilient, and responsible in order to prepare them for a changing global community. So the purpose of our budget process is to find ways to fund and pursue our district goals in order to meet those obligations that we have to all of our students. So these are the district goals which are served by our budget, whether we are at the preliminary stage or whether we're at the final stage. These are the main things that encompass most of the work that we do. First and foremost is a quality educational program. This evening you'll see you have a copy of the high school curriculum guide. That's merely one component of the quality education programming that we have here in the district for all of our kids. We also have to attend to more than just academics, and that is, as you heard me say in describing the Safe to Say program, we have a number of students with critical social and emotional needs as well. So we have to attend to mental health needs and the daily social and emotional issues that may arise in our student population. We also believe in our district, and if you take a look around at the ongoing construction, you know that we embrace and fully support a full measure of extracurricular activities which are designed to allow our students to pursue their interests at a different level outside of the regular school day. So whether it's theater arts, our music programs, and we have 2 of those concerts this evening here in the district, or whether it's our athletic program, our students need to be able to enhance their lives outside of academics. And we are committed to doing that. We know that we have a very large percentage of our students, well over 85% of our students, involved in extracurricular activities at the middle school and the high school level. We obviously want to continue to support those endeavors. It's critical for us to maintain our facilities at a particular level. As buildings age, we have to continue to update certain features within those facilities, but we also need to create a safe and secure environment for all of our students as well. And finally, as we bring new staff on board and we also maintain and retain the staff members that we have, we want to continue to ensure through a program of professional development, whether here in the district or outside of the district by sending people to workshops and so forth, that we continue to ensure that not only is our staff well qualified when we hire them, but that we can retain them at a well qualified level as well. So this is the current status of the budget. And as many of you are already well aware, at this point in the year, the preliminary budget exercise is one that really does not reveal that much about what you will see ultimately in June. We know that this year the Act 1 index is set at 2.3%, slight decrease from last year. That allows us to raise the tax level by $970,000. And as you can see at this point, we are well above that. Rather than being at 2.3%, we are at 5.64% for our tax increase, which is $2.385 million. So therefore, we have a deficit of a little over $1.4 million that we have to make up between now and June in order to get to the Act 1 index. And whether or not we go out for exceptions here in our district, our tradition is not to go for it, or rather is not to take those exceptions, but instead to maintain a consistent level of tax increases each year, usually at or below index. We pledge to do that this year as well. So that deficit you see at the bottom, we hope to erase by the time we present the final budget in June. As you can see, it is not unusual. I have the January 2017 and the January 2018 increases. So at this time last year and the year before that, you can see what the deficit, or rather what the Act 1 index, what the amount was, where we were for the preliminary budget tax increase. Similar figures 2 years ago was a little bit higher at 5.93%. And last year was about 4.94%. So we're well within the range of where we typically are at this time of year. So this is where the exercise of sharpening the pencils, getting the information that we need in order to really hone the budget starts taking place. Most of the work, by the way, that we do does not take place until around March. That's when we will most likely get our figures from the state in terms of our state revenue that we will be getting. We don't have a precise figure on that now. That's probably when we will get more information about our health care costs. So everything we do at this point in the year in January is a great guesstimate. This is, of course, the budget process that we follow, and if you start at the yellow, that entire description that you see within the yellow frame is actually what occurs between September and sometime around December. It's actually looking at our enrollments, what do we project for the following year, looking at previous school budgets in order to determine what's our history of spending, where do we typically put the money, what are the new initiatives or programs that we have in place that we need to build funding for, and so forth. If you look into the green, this is where we start talking about staffing. February 1st is the contractual deadline for staff members to indicate that they are planning on retiring if they wish to take any contractual entitlements. That doesn't mean we can't get retirements after that. We start looking again at our other contractual obligations as well. And then in the blue circle, we begin to estimate, because we don't, again, have precise figures, where will the revenue be coming from? We look at assessments. We look at property tax figures. We look at our estimate for what the state will be providing. We look at our federal dollars that will be coming in. And then finally, we also look at all of our other costs that we anticipate are going to take place. And one of those important components, which you'll see in a later slide, of course, is PSERS. How much is our pension obligation increasing yet again, as it does every year? These are our three sources of revenue. It's really very simple. We have the local, the state, and the federal sources. And as you can see, the state revenue for us is really very, very little compared to what our local revenue is, and the federal dollars are basically non-existent. And you'll see over time what that looks like. For this year's preliminary budget, we are at a little over $60 million, and as you can see, the lion's share of that, a little over 80%, is coming from local revenue, because we simply do not get the funds from the state or federal level. This gives you an idea of revenue projections, that should say comparisons over time. This is a 5-year comparison, and starting with the purple, that's the year 2015-16, and then they follow along in order. So what you can see is, if you look at the last 3 years, you'll see there's actually very little difference in terms of the amount of money locally that is contributed to the budget. It's a little over $48 million to the current year, $50.7 million. If you look at the state revenue, you'll see again there is very, very little difference. I'll highlight it for you here between what we have gotten over the 5-year period. There's only a slight difference of a little less than $300,000 from 5 years ago to the current year of a little bit over $9 million. And federal dollars, if you look, have decreased significantly from 5 years ago. They've jumped kind of all over the place, but we're kind of at an average level of where we've been the 5 years. So again, I think this illustrates very nicely that unfortunately, the lion's share of the revenue must come from local sources. This gives you some idea of our expenditures, and again, comparisons over time. If you take a look from the 2015-2016 school year, it's a little challenging to see it. There we go. Which is this column over here. What you're noticing here, if you look at 2015-16, is there's very little difference in terms of salaries. And when I say little, it's all relative, between that number and where we are currently in the preliminary budget. Obviously, we have salary contractual obligations, but salary is flexible because we have staff members who leave as well as new staff members who come on, in addition to the fact that individuals on the salary guide, the teachers, will step as well as have horizontal movement. So all of those factors are taken into consideration when the salary figure is compiled. We actually go through and grid what everyone will be making in the coming year. Benefits have increased fairly significantly, even from 1 year ago. You can see there's a fairly significant change of about $888,000. So believe it or not, the increase just from last year to this year is $1.5 million in salary and benefits. And as you'll see shortly, those two areas are the lion's share of our budget anyway. All of the other dollars, if you look down what we have here in the preliminary budget, are really not significantly different in terms of the changes from the previous year. We try to keep those in line, but as I'm going to show you in the next slide, there's such a small portion of our budget, even controlling all of those other object codes does not yield a significant amount of savings. And there you see it. If you look at the blue portion of the pie, which represents benefits, and the red portion of the pie, which represents salaries, you see that accounts for 70% of the entire budget. All of the other slivers are the same object codes over here on the left that we looked at in the functions. Professional and technical services, those are our consultants, accounting, legal, property services, other services, supplies and equipment, debt service, and so forth. They're actually quite minimal when you look at the portion of the budget that they comprise. So there's very little control that we have over that 30% of the budget. It really does not do much. The lion's share, as I said, is devoted to salaries and benefits. That's where the major spending occurs. And let's face it, we are a people-focused business. We have to serve our clientele. How do we serve them? We serve them through the staff that we have. So these are some of the expenses that are therefore going to increase as student needs increase and as student population increases. As you can see, over the past 10 years, we've had a 25% increase in the number of students that we serve in the district. And as a result of that, in order to accommodate those children in classrooms, we've had to hire significant staff members. Within the last 5 years alone, we've added 9 additional classroom teachers. That does not include other positions. That's classroom only. Our economically disadvantaged student population has increased in 10 years, as you can see with those numbers. Our English language learner population has significantly increased. We are still dealing with a fairly significantly sized, about 17% of our population of students with specified disabilities. And as we said in the beginning, when we said our charge is to ensure that our facilities get the necessary updating, additions, and replacements, we have to ensure that we continue to ensure safe conditions. And of course, that helps to explain the debt service that we've taken on as a result of our building projects. And then finally, of course, the mental and emotional needs of students have significantly increased. I think everyone at the state level has seen this across the Commonwealth in all school districts. That's why we have a Safe to Say program. There's concern about this need. That necessitates additional people who are not in the classroom, but who nonetheless work with our population of students. So this shows enrollment increases in recent years and gives you an idea visually of why additional classroom teachers continue to be needed. So if you look at the increasing populations, and one thing I want to point out about this purple, which is the year 2012-13, there was a huge jump between 2011, 2012, and this particular year. It was the population in Enfield in the previous school year was 352. So in 1 year, it jumped almost 40 students. And then it's moved on, of course, to over 400. But look at the significant increase as those students traveled over the path of these years from 2012-13 into Enfield and then into the middle school. We went from 688 to 850. If you have an average of between 22 and 25 students per class, it's easy to see how many teachers you need in order to accommodate those students. You have to hire teachers if you don't want 35 kids in a classroom. And similarly, at the middle school, the enrollment is climbing. Again, where do you put 76 children? And then again at the high school, where do you put 80, 70, whatever that number is very quickly? Where do you put those kids? It's the same argument. So these are some of the major areas of expense that we have built into the preliminary budget. As I mentioned before, you have both salaries and health care. We're noticing increases. One critical factor I want to point out, this does not include yet any new staff. And all these folks out here are begging me for new staff in every possible area. English language learner teacher, more teachers at the middle school, more teachers at the high school so we can add more courses and more course offerings to our high school kids. More class size. We've already added, as we put on tonight's agenda, a teacher at Erdenheim that was necessary for special education. The needs continue to grow. We're continuing with our bus replacement. Fortunately, we've kept the amount of that money that we build into the budget fairly consistent, so it becomes less of a proportionate factor in the budget. But in order to continue to replace our older vehicles, we are continuing to do that with our fleet. Debt service. And what I want to point out here is the preliminary budget figures includes the last $10 million bond that we just took out in order to finance the new construction. So again, we have faithfully wrapped in all of the debt service into the last budgets that we have done, including this one, which was the commitment that we made when we first embarked on these building projects. And this is a positive thing. If we do have money set aside in fund balance to help offset increased debt service. This figure does not include that set aside. So later on, when the Finance Committee meets, we will most likely be asking to utilize some of the set aside that we have in fund balance to help offset this, which will help to bring the budget increase down. And then finally, at the end, our favorite, our PSERS increase, our old standby. I think I'll be long gone when it comes to a point when somebody standing in my place will be able to happily report there's no more PSERS increases. That'll probably be around 50 years from now. So as you've seen, the budget really does represent the fiscal support that we need in order to pursue all those very, very important goals for our district. It's always representational of the wants and needs that everybody has. Everybody needs something, whether it's a parent who needs more services for their child, whether it's a student who needs another course or another activity in which to engage, or whether it's a staff member who needs Act 48 professional development credits. Everybody has their own level and their own type of needs that they need if they are involved in a school system. And of course, the balance is always trying to meet as many of those needs as we can, yet understanding that we have an obligation to the community to try to be fiscally responsible and determine what are the priorities. We can't do everything every single year. So our goal this year, as always, is to continue to meet the district goals that I've identified, along with any state mandates, including the one I just described to you, the Safe to Say program. We don't know if there will be a cost attached to that down the road. We don't at this point have to pay for anything. Training has been free, but we never know with any state mandate whether or not down the road there will be a subsequent cost. We want to continue to be able to maintain reasonable class sizes, and as I've described to you, we have a number of individuals who are pressuring me to help keep those numbers at the realistic numbers that we've had up until this point, and so we are going to be looking at additional staff. We want to continue to provide up-to-date equipment. We have Chromebook leases that come up because we find it more cost-effective to lease rather than to buy. But when they come up, we have to replace the outdated equipment that we've had. Chromebooks go through tremendous use and abuse. So we have to ensure that we put up-to-date technology that is either repaired or replaced in the hands of our students. As you're all well aware, we bought a new math program last year. Those programs are expensive, but we're already starting to see good results. You want good results? Unfortunately, we have to pay the price. We want to be able to continue to provide for special needs students, and that includes students with an identified IEP, as well as any student who might be in crisis for any reason. You'll see there are some board motions on tonight's agenda about attending to social and mental health needs of our students. Those are all important adjuncts to what we already do with our own psychologists, social workers, and guidance counselors. And again, we understand who our community is out there. We know this, and we've heard it loud and clear. We know that parents have specific things that they want for their kids, and we know that their kids deserve those things. But we also know the broader Springfield Township community is comprised of people who do not have children, who do not send their children to our school district, or who are living on fixed incomes because of their age. So we understand this, and as I said, we have repeatedly, over the past 8 years, tried to keep very level increases in our budget, and that's a goal that we set for ourselves. It has never been a mandate from the board. It has always been something that we have intentionally elected to do on our own. And Mr. King is the one who comes under the most pressure when I go into his office and say, no good, we got to cut it down. And we somehow find the way to do that with the help of the members of the Finance Committee who give us recommendations. So that's our budget presentation for this year. Again, you'll see there is approval of the preliminary budget that is on the agenda. And once again, our pledge is to work between now and June when we present a final budget to get it down to the level that we saw in the beginning of the presentation. So thank you. Anyone have any questions? Okay.
It's a lot of work. We'll get there. That's it from me. Okay, thank you, Dr. Hacker. All right, we'll move on to new business, the personnel agenda, personnel attachment. The Board of School Directors approves the following personnel as presented in the attachment: certificated personnel, support personnel, temporary personnel, extended school year program personnel, extra pay for extra responsibilities, and conference workshop attendance. Is there a motion? Motion. Is there a second? Second. Okay, any comments or questions? I actually do have a question, and it was regarding the new staff member that is on the personnel attachment. You indicated that that's for special education. Is that additional students that have been identified, or is it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We've had a number of students move into our school district this year at a particular grade level.
Okay.
So we had an exponential increase that we had not anticipated.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard,
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 2, total registration. The Board of School Directors approves the agreement between the School District of Springfield Township and Total Registration in the amount of $390.60 for online student registration for advanced placement exams. Is there a motion?
Motion.
As second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 3, 2019-2020 school calendar. The Board of School Directors approves the 2019-2020 school calendar as per the attachment C. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 4, school-based outpatient services. The Board of School Directors authorizes a partnership with Child and Family Focus on behalf of the Montgomery County Behavioral Health Department for the school-based outpatient services within the district in each building for the 2018-2019 school year. There is no cost to the district for this program. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer.
Aye.
Ms. Sarsfield.
Aye.
Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 5, Act 80. The Board of School Directors approves the proposal from Burke One in the amount of $810 to complete the Act 80 filing of corrected school district code reports to the PA Department of Revenue, Attachment AA. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
One question, just the alternative to this is human capital, right? Like, people would actually have to go line by line and look at,
A member of my staff.
wow, yeah, so this is a no-brainer, yeah, great, okay.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Approval of the, number 6, approval of the 2019-2020 Eastern Center budget. The Board of School Directors approves the resolution for the 2019-2020 general operating budget between Eastern Center for Arts and Technology and the School District of Springfield Township, Attachment BB. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Walter's not here. A second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Mr. Uh-huh.
Why do we have to do this? I guess I've never asked over the years.
So we pay on a per-pupil basis based on the education that the students receive for the half-day program that they attend at the Eastern Center. So we belong to the consortium for Eastern. We support the Eastern Technology School. So as a member district, we have an obligation to pay for the services that the students receive. They get a half-day school program for the entire school year.
So we're not approving their budget, we're approving our contribution to their budget. Is that right?
Both.
So why do we have to approve their budget? Or do you not?
Just, I guess the only way I can explain it is as a member of the Joint Operating Committee and as a member district that supports Eastern, they ask us to approve their entire budget as well.
I can answer the question. Under the school code, we are required to be part of a vocational technical school arrangement. And pursuant to articles of agreements which exist between all of the sending school districts and in accordance with the school code, all of the boards, you're technically a board member and an equity owner on the vocational technical schools. So how many boards are there? There are 9 or 10?
9.
10. Oh, well, okay. With Bryn Athyn, theoretically, you have 90 members on the board. So we are voting as if this is our own budget, and then we delegate the authority to the Joint Operating Committee to operate the school on a regular basis. So we're approving their budget, and by virtue of the Articles of Agreement, we are also authorizing our share of the expenditures to the vocational school.
I was going to ask a question. So the latter makes total sense to me. What if we, for example, voted no on their budget? What would happen?
I mean, if there are usually requirements under the code to have a two-thirds approval of all of the board members in order to pass the budget. So our budget is a component aspect of it.
And just one note to add to that, Ben, because we've had recent conversations about upgrades and renovations and so forth, and one of the major facilities projects that they are now looking at is a new roof, and that means all of the districts involved will help share in the expense of what that would cost if approved.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teretuski.
Aye. Number 7, acceptance of donation. The Board of School Directors accepts the donation in the amount of $100 made by Ms. Ethel Myers in honor of Dr. Nancy Hacker. Dr. Hacker was the recipient of the 2018 Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators Leadership in Public Education Award. The donation will be recorded into the district's PASA Scholarship Fund and will be awarded to a deserving student in the district. Is there a motion? Second. Any comments or questions?
Congratulations again.
Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teretuski.
Aye. Number 8, Girls on the Run. The Board of School Directors approves the Memorandum of Understanding between Girls on the Run of Montgomery and Delaware Counties, PA, and the School District of Springfield Township to deliver Girls on the Run programming for 10 weeks beginning February 19th, 2019 at Erdenheim Elementary School, Attachment CC. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any comments or questions? Mhm.
What is Girls on the Run, and is this a new program or something that's been here before?
This is an outside of the district program. It's not organized in the district, although it's advertised in the district. It's handled by outside parents, and it's a program for physical fitness for girls. They literally run. I think it's longer than that. No, I think it's longer than that. It's been around for a
Oh,
while.
it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
My daughter was part of it.
Yeah, and it's in many other districts as well.
It's a national physical activity program that's come out in terms of increasing health and physical activity among girls, diversity, and a bunch of other elements.
They work on social and emotional development, and they work up to a 5K run, and all of the girls at the end that have participated in the area then participate in a 5K run with a buddy runner, and it's a really amazing program.
This is a really great program. Is there a reason we don't make this a permanent piece of the district offering, rather than having this come through the board?
It's not a school program, it's a national program.
Got it.
It's an counts as an extracurricular program. 'cause it's
Okay.
after
And
school.
there's no cost.
Great.
Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teretuski.
Aye. Number 9, adoption of the 2019-2020 preliminary budget. The Board of School Directors approves the adoption of the 2019-2020 preliminary budget and authorizes the administration to file for Act 1 exceptions. Attachment DD. Is there a motion? Okay. Any comments or questions?
I did have one question that came out of the presentation, Dr. Hacker. You talked about the healthcare increases, but there were no staff increases. So is that just anticipated annual?
No, that does not include, as I said, any staffing at all. So I can't guarantee there won't be staff increases as a result.
Got it, but to the preliminary budget, though, the increase in healthcare was just associated with the
Oh, the
anticipated cost.
The healthcare is benefits.
Benefit.
The healthcare number that you saw
Yeah.
was the prescription, dental, medical, and so forth.
That projection is just based on annual.
That is a projection that we have at this point based on our information that we are getting as a result of our membership in the CPAS consortium. We will get an additional look at that generally sometime around March, and we should have our final numbers in April. So there's generally a first look, a second look, and again, it's all based on experience and who our people are and how they're utilizing the programs.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratescu.
Aye. Number 10, Policy 707, Revised Administrative Rule. The Board of School Directors approves the attached revised use of school facilities, AR 707, as recommended by the Property Committee, Attachment EE. Is there a motion?
Motion.
A second? Any comments or questions?
What were the changes? I didn't see anything redlined or anything.
It's
in
the
document.
numbers. It's the numbers for the facility use. The fees are changed.
The numbers in terms of cost, or?
Yes,
Oh,
the fees.
The expenses,
The fees associated with groups using the facilities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan.
Aye.
Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratescu.
Aye. Number 11, Montgomery County Official Offices of Drug and Alcohol and Mental Health Letter of Agreement. The Board of School Directors approves the letter of agreement between Aldersgate Youth Service Bureau and the School District of Springfield Township pertaining to the delivery of mental health, drug, and alcohol rehabilitation services and any other additional responsibilities of the SAP Liaison Provider Agency. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any comments or questions? Absolutely.
Cost associated with the program?
With Aldersgate?
For the student assistance program?
The Student Assistance Program is our own program. Aldersgate works in conjunction with us to provide mental health.
But there's
No cost.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratescu.
Aye. Number 12, Service Master. The Board of School Directors approves the fourth attachment to purchase order for the RFP between Service Master TBS Division and the School District of Springfield Township for the 2018-2019 school year, as recommended by the Property Committee, and upon final approval of the Superintendent and Solicitor. Is there a motion? And a second? Any comments or questions? Mr. Ray? None?
Sorry. Question.
Uh-huh.
So I saw within the language of that service master agreement that there was some, I guess, deficiency of services, or they weren't providing services to the full extent. So it didn't kind of state what the resolution to that was. And what's the difference between the annual rate for 18-19 and the annual cost for 18-19, since it's a difference between
First of all,
810?
This is a contract with the company that we currently have under contract with us. Because of the deficiencies that they were told about on numerous occasions in our communication with them, we finally got to the point where we said, we're taking away that portion of the contract and we're going to go with another provider. So that's the purpose of, it's more or less an amendment to the original contract with them to say that the services that they will be performing will not include Erdenheim School. The next motion will deal with an agreement with a new company to take over those services.
Okay, so the difference in the cost from the annual rate to the annual cost is Erdenheim, coming out of that, the 810, 400, and then the 721, 245. That's what that changes, okay. The terms were,
If I could just add something to Dr. Hacker. We had met with the owner, or the representatives of Service Master about the issues that we were facing, and they worked with us on this. A lot of it had to do with staffing issues and turnover and things of that nature, and we presented to them our solution, which is actually the next motion that you're going to act on. So it was, we worked together to come up with this solution. The idea was so they could take the staff that they have in Erdenheim and then they can redeploy them throughout the other buildings and staff those up to decent levels to be able to perform the services that we have expected. So Dr. Hacker is correct. There was a reduction in services, but I just wanted to make sure that the board was clear and the public was clear that this was in cooperation with Service Master. And then the solution was, Mr. Thorne brought us the solution for the vendor in the next motion. Just wanted to clarify.
So they weren't able to provide enough staff to cover Erdenheim, is that the deal?
They had a lot of staffing issues and
Okay.
turnovers and being able to produce a number of hours that were sufficient to
Okay.
do the job that we have expected them to do or hired them to do.
And did you have a question?
I did.
Yeah.
Do we survey staff or families or students appropriate on cleaning custodial services?
We don't survey, but we certainly hear from them if they're not satisfied.
They have, through our internal software system, they can enter any issues that they see, and then we have a way of marking how and if they're resolved. And that's generally how we're able to determine whether or not things have been attended to and what the feedback is on the services as well.
can you clarify what the final cost of that contract was? Because I still don't understand the difference in the two amounts.
The final cost of,
For Service Master's contract for 1819?
for 1819 is going to be the 721,245.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman. Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 13, Interstate Maintenance Corporation. The Board of School Directors approves the agreement with Interstate Maintenance Corporation to provide custodial services at Erdenheim Elementary School effective February 1, 2019 through June 30th, 2019, as recommended by the Property Committee and upon final approval of the Superintendent and Solicitor. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan. Mr. Rayer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Taratusky.
Aye. Number 14, 2019-2020 High School Curriculum Guide. The Board of School Directors approves the 2019-2020 High School Curriculum Guide. Is there a motion? And a second? Any comments or questions?
Anything new or great that we should know about the guide for this year?
Dr. Yannicone, do you want to talk about the new courses that we'll be offering?
There are 7 new courses. So there's 2 in language arts, journalism and public speaking. There are 3 in science, advanced placement chemistry and physics E&M, as well as a new elective in planetary science, which is accessible to all students. We have 2 in the arts, 1 in glassworks and 1 in instruments of rock in the music department. We did not drop anything other than to open up flexibility with the community college coursework. In the past, we'd only listed 4 courses, and we really have access to all of them. So we just provided more specific direction to students if they want to go and research options at the college.
And as always, all courses are dependent upon enrollment.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. King?
Mr. Bedard.
Aye.
Mr. Chapman.
Aye.
Ms. Jordan. Mr. Ryer. Ms. Sarsfield. Dr. Teodotusky.
Aye. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
Yeah, of course
Okay.
there is. My name's Giuseppe Craney Monticelli, that's spelled out for the record, Giuseppe, Craney, Craney hyphen Monticelli, Monticelli. I'm here tonight pursuant to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act 65 PA Consolidated Statute 701-716. I'm here to share my story. You guys may have heard my story on the encounters of May 14, 2018, and also on November 5th, 2018, where I'm here tonight to go public. I encourage everyone who was a victim throughout the years to come forward and share your story as well. Between the years of 2012 to 2014, specifically January 16, 2014, well, today's 5-year anniversary tomorrow. January 16th, 2019 will be 5 years since I was kicked to the curb by the district. Thank you, Mr. Lapkus. Thank you, Ms. Scholes. And thank you, Dr. Teodotusky, for kicking me to the curb. You sat there between 2014 and that year, between January and also at that time, you sat there repeatedly. You sat there on that board and you approved items to get me kicked off to the curb. I don't appreciate that. So I prefer education over litigation, Esquire Mark Davis. So before the Commonwealth, in the matter of the United States District Federal Court, Eastern District of Pennsylvania, Giuseppe Craney Monticelli versus School District of Springfield Township. We got other parties here. We got Lauren Patterson Davis, Audrey McLaurin, Jason Cattuso, Gregory Brasco, Dr. Nancy Hacker. This is a draft. This has not been filed with the court yet. I want to make sure that's well known to you, Mr. Davis. This is, in fact, a draft. So before I leave here, I will leave with my statement of saying I brought my concerns to Ms. Davis. I brought my concerns to Judith Smith, the counselor, between 2012 and 2014. And I have retaliatory processes brought against me and all on that fateful January 16th day. And I don't appreciate that whatsoever. You retaliated against me. You kicked me off the curb because you didn't want to hear my story. You didn't want to hear it. So I leave you with this. The last 5 years of my life, I have had traumatic experiences, including dissociative identity disorder. That's why I identify myself today as Giuseppe. Back then, 2012, 2013, and 2014, I was Joseph Craney. I was 12, ongoing age 13. I was supposed to be finishing my second semester of 7th grade. I lost time with my friends, my studies, my life. You got your measly few minutes of sexual gratification and fun at my expense, and I lost my life. I will never forgive you for what you did to me, Lauren Patterson Davis, Sandra McLaurin, Jason Gattuso especially, Gregory Brasco, and you, Dr. Nancy Hacker. But hopefully I can move on with help from my family and friends. I am going to survive. Yes, I am. Today's January 15th, 2019 at 20:09. Thank you. And I will be approaching your Esquire over here for delivery of documents on the record. Draft lawsuit that will be filed if I don't see change in this district. And here's the Act 3 subpoena. 911 records. Your public servant called up on November 5th, 2018, and falsified a 911 call with Pottstown Dispatch Operations in Eagleville. The Tell them appreciate that. Receive that and copy. Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions on non-agenda items? Okay, come on up.
How are you today?
Good, state your name.
My name is Angela Beal Tawfiq, and I would like to say hello to everyone. Today I come with a few announcements. I'd like to announce the next upcoming Multicultural Parent Association meeting on January 23rd at the middle school library. And then I actually have a question. I was wondering what steps parents might make to encourage scholastic involvement within the district for students who participate in scholastic sports that aren't currently offered in the district. Is there a reprisal for students that might participate in athletic offerings that aren't here to participate on the scholastic level to be able to qualify for scholarships and collegiate involvement?
I'm not sure that I understand your question, Angela.
For example, my daughter, Sage Tawfiq, participates in a community rowing program. She actually is a single rower. She has the ability and opportunity to compete for collegiate scholarships. However, as an individual rower, she's in need of scholastic association. I have been working with Dr. Rittenhouse and Mr. I'm sorry, I forgot his name.
Laura?
Yes. Yes. And they have been very, it's a process, I think, that we're going through, but she would be in need of a letter of approval. We are currently at the state where there is no financial element in terms of insurances or things like that because she would row under the community boat rowing program that she is with. However, they just do need scholastic approval. So I was just bringing it to the board to possibly assist in the inquiry currently being made by the athletic director.
Well, again, that would be done at the school level.
Yeah.
So you've gone to the right folks. And yes, we can make that happen. We've done that for other students as well.
Great. Oh, see, thank you. Have a good evening and Happy New Year.
Thanks, Happy New Year. Any other comments on non-agenda items? Okay. Future meeting dates, there's an interim board meeting on Tuesday, February 5th at 7 p.m. in the Freeze Memorial Lobby. That's a tentative date. There's a regular school board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 19th at 7 p.m. here in the Freeze Memorial Lobby. And the property committee will meet on Friday, January 25th, 2019 at 8:15 a.m. in the